Fisher Fanatics. So, weekend update, real quick. I am tired. It's about 11 o'clock, but there's a couple things that. Let me turn this real quick, sorry. A couple of things going down. We picked up a new male guppy, and he's currently separated from the other tank, just simply because we're treating the other tank at the moment. There he is. Gorgeous guy. Love this guy. He'll soon be joining the rest of the adults. And yeah, the other tank is, the guppy tank's currently being treated right now. Noticed some issues going on, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later. But you can kind of see that we got some ram's horn snails that are just doing what snails do. They're kind of all over. There's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's more in here. There's actually 3 more, but I'm not sure currently where they are. But you can see the water's kind of cloudy right now because the fish are being treated. You can also see that little white splotch that's right there. Those are snail eggs from the ram's horns. So we'll have more of those soon. You can see all the little fry that are still swimming around. One of the male adults, and believe it or not, the one swimming right there is a juvenile. They're almost completely ready to go. And hopefully in the next week, I'll say, maybe 2 tops, we're going to have a 55-gallon tank set up for these guys, possibly. And if not, there's at least a 20 that will be set up for them. There are currently 5 females and 1 male, plus the new one we just bought would be 2 males. They're all going to get dumped into a 20-gallon along with the juveniles. And then the fry will grow up in here, which will be a little bit easier for maintenance. Oh, good grief. I just noticed that too. Let's see. So, all the way over here, there is more snail eggs. Let me show you again. Right there. So those are more ram's horn snail's eggs. We're going to have quite a few of those. But anyways, pretty soon they're all going to be in either a 20 or 55. Probably in the 20 to start off with. Plus, I also did buy some more stuff, which is all kind of sorted right now. I bought 2 heaters and a new air pump, along with some filters and something else as well. Oh, quick start. Which I always carry a little bit of quick start on hand just in case we need it to boost something. If a tank crashes, it's a good way to jumpstart the tank to prevent it from fully crashing. It also helps out with just random issues you may have. If you have a sponge filter that's been cycling for a while and it's not quite ready yet, but almost there, you can put the sponge filter in, hit it with quick start, and it'll help boost the beneficial bacteria that you already have. It may still take a week for it to fully cycle and be ready to go, but it's a lot better than waiting a month. And if you check out over here, as you can see, we are still rocking and rolling. 1 sponge filter, 2 sponge filters, so we can do 2 20s or a 55 at this point. I have not decided what we're going to do. It all depends on what happens this weekend, if we go to the fish auction or not. Hoping we go, but it's kind of up in the air right now. And if you haven't been watching the videos from prior, I would suggest it, because you can see this hornwort here, which I talk about in quite a few videos. This thing was chopped down to the point where it was about that tall, and that was it. And that was done 2 weeks ago. In 2 weeks, it has branched up again to the point where it's halfway up the tank. So it's already about 11 inches tall, 12 inches tall, about a foot tall or so, a little bit bigger maybe. In another 2 weeks, it'll be at the top of the tank, and I'll need to cut it down again. So it's growing out of control as always, which is great for me because it's, good stuff. But anyways, we're hoping to go to the fish auction this weekend, and if we do, there's a possibility, which is probably a good possibility, we'll end up picking up a couple fish. But you can see these guys are doing really well. These two, and in the previous video I mentioned it as well, but it looks like these two are a very, very good possible pair going on. They seem to always be by each other. They don't want to leave each other's sides, which is fine. And of course, Eyebrow and Koi, everywhere the Koi goes, Eyebrow follows, and he chases off everybody away from them. So it's also a good possibility that they're going to turn into a pair as well. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that'll be within the next 3 weeks or so. I'm going to be able to separate at least those two pairs out to make sure and see if they are an official pair. And if they are, then great. And we'll hopefully have eggs soon. So that about sums up everything going on. The fish auction we're going to is going to be bigger than the last one, which was last weekend. And hopefully they have a much better selection of fish. The last auction we went to, they had a good variety, but a lot of them were the same fish. It was a lot of Neil Lamprologus Picardis, and there was quite a few angelfish, and there were a lot of bristlenose, some different varieties of plecos, some different varieties of catfish, and some ultra rare catfish as well. They had some whiptails that were gorgeous, that were like big bucks. They almost went for like $20 a piece. So I'm going to guess that this one will be bigger. There was a convention down in Chicago, and a lot of the people had commented that a lot of the normal attendees were there. But this is the other thing that I think is really cool in here, and this is the wisteria. And if you guys watched the video from last week, this is how much it's grown in a week. It's put on another 1.5 inches to 2 inches already. So, and it's sprouted out like massively. This is all wisteria. It's crazy. No fertilizing in this tank. The nitrate levels are based solely off of the amount of fish in here, and it does a pretty good job of providing them food. The Val is still doing pretty decent. It's not shooting up like super fast, which it usually doesn't, but it is growing, which is definitely a good thing. And you can see in here, albino bristlenose. He's one of the little guys that we picked up. You can see over here, he just tucked behind the heater or the sponge filter. What a little brat. He was just there. Can I see him on the other side? No. Anyways, there's one that's hiding out down there. Oh, motion sickness time. And over here, normally you can't see this guy, but you can barely make him out at the very back. He's on the bottom of that little section. That's the main ones that are always out. So that's 3 out of the 5. The other 2, I'm willing to bet, again, are in here somewhere. And I just can't see them because they're brown and that's a black background. So, yeah. But everyone's doing really good still. Although, one of them decided to rip out the sword. Not sure which one of them did it, but one of them did. So, we'll have to fix that. And, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much sums up everything over the weekend. Like I said, we did get some new heaters and some other odds and ends, and made sure that we can get at least one tank up and running, which it is. And I'll show you here in a second. So you're going to see in the next video this tank empty. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here because I haven't been able to work on that one yet. But this is the one that I want to come out first. And you can see, guys, and you'll notice from the first video you watch, this is crazy, okay? quick rundown. We went to the local fish store, and we picked up 3 of their display tanks that they had literally just broken down. All 3 of them held water. All 3 of them had no leaks. The silicone looked good on all 3 of them. There was substrate in all 3 of them, and there was still a little bit of water in each of them. I made sure they didn't want the substrate. They flat out told me that if I wanted it, I could keep it. Otherwise, they dump it. I never turn down free substrate. It's silly. All you gotta do is wash it out, and it's perfectly fine, which is what we did. So you're gonna see, like I said in the next video, I showed you guys a picture of this tank empty, okay? And in this empty tank, there were literally piles and piles and piles of Malaysian trumpet snails. And there were a couple of them moving. Had no idea how many of them were alive still, how many of them had passed because they were, you know, out of water for a while. But I'm gonna zoom out real quick and you can see baby, 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 baby. These guys are all alive. Baby, 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 baby. All over. Okay? These guys are all over. And these are the ones that are just on the glass. This does not include the ones that are buried under the substrate, that have tunneled down into the substrate. It does not include the ones that are on top of the substrate that are still alive. There are some in here. We're giving them a few days to balance out. But as you can see, this guy right here is still alive and he's still on the substrate. Let's see. There he goes. You can see him moving. That is strictly the snail. There's not enough water flow in here to move these things. I figure there's probably 100 to 200 snails in here still alive. Yeah, and this is the other tank that we're currently trading right now. Sorry, one of the cats was getting into one of the brackets that we have. But this is currently the other tank we're treating at the moment. And it had some serious bacteria issues in here. I can never pronounce it, but it's like cyanic or cyanosic bacteria. This stuff is no good for the plants or fish. It will coat the plants, preventing them from getting oxygen or getting water and feeding off of the nitrates, and it will kill them. So you have to treat. And we are using erythromycin right now to treat this. This is the second day we've treated it. We just got done treating it tonight. You can see it's starting to go away pretty much. It's literally fading out. It was a little bit thicker. What we did initially, and you can see there's actually brown algae starting now, which is a good sign. But we took out as much of the stuff as we could. We hit it with erythromycin and then let it sit overnight. 24 hours later, we hit it again and we'll let it sit till tomorrow. We'll do a water change on it and we'll let it rest for a day, and then we'll dose it again for 2 more days. And hopefully by then it'll be enough to kill off the rest of this. So, yeah. And then, like I said, let me pull the light over here so you guys can see a little bit better in here. But there's this is mind-boggling and mind-blowing simply because we didn't pay for these snails. They were in the tank, they were in the substrate. You know, to get 200 Malaysian trumpet snails for free, and then on top of that have big enough ones to breed even more? Like, that's just, I can't believe a business would say, here you go. I mean, that's why I love going to that store. They know us, we're in there all the time. You know, I usually get pretty good deals on the tanks. There's majority of the time they'll take 10 to 20% off of it if we, you know, buy a bigger order of stuff. But I mean, literally probably 200 Malaysian trumpet snails for free. You guys can look up the cost of these things. They average between 50 cents to $1 a piece. I mean, you're talking $100 to $200 worth of snails, you know, and it was free. This is why you need to get in good with your local fish stores, guys. It pays off. You know, they can teach you a lot of valuable stuff about the hobby if you're newer. And on top of that, when you get to know them really well, most cases they'll buy your fish off of you if you're doing a breeding for profit stint, or you know, if you have a couple of fish that you just don't want, and you want different ones or newer ones, you know, they'll take them in as trade, and they'll give you store credit, and you can pick something out you do want. I mean, that's the way to go. So make sure that you treat your people at your local fish stores with, you know, respect, and chat them up. But I mean, it's crazy, and I don't see any right now, but you can actually see with these, the substrate will move. And I don't see any of it moving. The cool thing about the trumpet snails is they will dig into sand and substrate. They can't really do it that well in the rock, but they will dig in sand and burrow. And you can see there's a little bit of like markings back there, trails, where they were crawling and digging in. And there's a little guy that's just cruising along. Ooh, drop the rocks. Sorry, guys. Moving along. Anyways, you can physically see the substrate, the sand moving up and down as they're like burrowing and crawling around. I don't even know how many are under the substrate right now. It's the most intense thing. But if you do a sand substrate and you got these guys, if you're not aware, if you cover up food, or if something were to die in the tank and it gets buried under the sand, and then you go through and you dig that up, it can release pockets of ammonia or nitrites, and that can cause a potential spike in your parameters and cause a tank crash and kill whatever you have in there. With the trumpet snails, since they burrow through the sand, they're constantly stirring up the substrate. You don't have to worry about that happening. So these, if you're not against having snails, these are the snails that are good for sand. You've seen I have ram's horns as well. Those are really good for cleanup crews too, if you have rock substrate. But aside from that, I mean, these guys they do a wonderful job, you know, I love it. And to get that many of them for free, amazing. And I'm not real big on snails. I do have them because I know they're good for the tank. I don't want a ton of snails in any tank of mine. I'm just not I'm not a huge fan of them. Ram's horns are pretty cool looking, and these Malaysian trumpet snails have a dual purpose. They clean and burrow, so they're good to have. And they will do what you need them to do. So if you're looking for sand substrate and something to make sure that you can stir up the substrate without having to clean it and move everything around every day, these guys will do it for you. And they'll also help you up the ways. So I had to show this, because to me, even now, this is 24 hours after we got them and got it set up. You know, there is a heater in there because at some point we're probably going to be putting fish in here. My filter's in there, as you can see. I also have an air stone that is not necessarily needed, but I wasn't sure exactly how far gone these guys would be. So I dumped as much oxygen in the water as I could to give them a more fighting chance. And clearly it paid off. As you can see, I mean, there's baby trumpets everywhere. I mean, they're harder to see in the back. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. But the back is just as covered as the front is. There's about 100 of them just on the tank in general. It's wild. But like I said, they're good to have if you have sand substrate. If you don't have sand substrate, you know, ram's horns are a good thing to have. I've only got like 10 in the 65 or 5 or something like that, and I've got 10 in the guppy tank right now just because of how much waste they produce. I know that helps out with that a little bit, and it helps balance the ecosystem in there. So that's why they're in there. I mean, I won't say that they're not useful and they don't have a purpose, because they do. I like fish more than I like snails. It's just simple as that. But they do help balance the ecosystem in the tank, so they're not a bad thing to have. So that's the weekend update for now. Like I said, the next video you'll kind of get an idea. This tank is going to be empty, and I know I did them backwards, but I wanted to get this one out because I won't be able to release the other one until probably Monday or Tuesday, I believe, if I'm lucky. And then I'm going to have another couple of videos coming out. If we do go to the auction, I will cover that. And I'll have that up sometime next week as well. So, yeah. Sorry to do them out of order, guys, but that's kind of where it's at. And you'll see the other tanks that we got as well. So, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, please comment below. Let me know how everything's going with you and how your tanks are running. Or if you have any general questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share. Sharing is caring, and we'll get more people into the hobby, which in turn allows us to have more people to trade with and chat with and get to know. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, happy fish keeping.